Engel, coming at you live with an update on what's going on in the Arkansas Legislature. You can catch me. I try to broadcast every Wednesday at 12:35. I may not be able to do that depending on my job situation, but I will try to do at least some updates on what's going on as they happen. There's a lot of things that are coming up this week. First of all, there's one good bill that I know was passed was the raw milk bill. I believe it's headed to the governor's desk. It should be signed. One I did forget to mention in this string here, and I may talk about the Olivia Act. I believe it's in the Arkansas Senate Health. The big one that has been famous is the Arkansas bill to authorize Ivermectin for human use without a prescription or consultation. You can buy it over the counter. That bill has been referred to Public Health and Labor Committee, but its update is to be scheduled to be updated in the Senate chamber. I believe what's going to happen is that it's going to be updated and re-amended. This process often happens in terms of dealing with legislation. You kind of have to add amendments, add co-sponsors. There may be some language. A cost analysis may have to be done, that sort of thing. I'm posting the link to the Arkansas Legislature so you can look up this on your own, look up bills and see what the status of them are. Again, this is SB 189. So contact the legislatures in the Public Health and Welfare Committee in the Senate and urge them to sponsor this bill. Move back and show another one. This is a bad bill. This is actually a bill that really needs to be stopped. It is, its name of it is SB 135. You can see the title. What it does is it allows these local governments to increase taxes in case of an unchanged rate of annual ad valorem tax levied. And so it gives them the option to increase their taxes. And folks, they do not need this. Our schools are horribly mismanaged. They do not need more money lobbed at them. We've already seen some of that with Arkansas Learns. And the real reason for this is that there's, of course, an effort by the powers that be to be able to raise taxes for these school districts, and there's probably going to be one for municipalities too. What's happened is years ago, these school districts would often put tax increases on random dates. The North Little Rock School District, for instance, did one on Valentine's Day. I campaigned against it and lost. They had other ones in like May where they try to get when people are gone. There was one, I think, a few days before Christmas, a tax increase on Little Rock. And they were able to pass a lot of these special election tax increases. And sadly, when the Republicans took over, thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and the globalist organizations within the state of Arkansas that have a lot of influence on the Republican Party, they kept that practice in place. And it took a lot of fighting from folks like me and others. And I think David Ray was the guy who led the effort in the Arkansas legislature to push for the banning of these special election tax increases. So now they have to have these elections in either May during the primary or during the general election. And so since that's been done, a lot of these tax increases have been voted down. Little Rock tried to push for a sales tax earlier because Frank Scott Jr. is an incompetent, corrupt leftist who doesn't know how to run a city. And that those tax increases were voted down. Other tax increases across the state have been just voted down, sometimes by a lot. And so these school districts, instead of, thinking of ways to improve, like we've seen in the federal government where you fire a lot of the useless employees, kind of like what Elon did with Twitter X and is now doing with the government under the orders of Trump, which is what the people wanted. All they know how to do is raise more money, take more money from you. And so they are pushing for what's known as this bill would allow them to raise taxes without having to get a vote from the people. That's really what it boils down to. That's what this is. And this would, of course, so it's a de facto tax increase, because sadly most of these governments, most of your state and local governments are in fact run by leftists. They are not conservatives in any sort of manner. They want to increase the cost of everything. They, raise, that's all they know how to do is tax. Push for taxes. The city of Pine Bluff, which the county of which is, I think, still in fiscal distress, they cannot pass a budget. They had, multiple tax increases over the course of several years. And they brought in the crooked casino because that was supposed to bring in revenue, and it doesn't work. This is a very bad bill. This bill is before Senate Education Committee. It's been amended 3 times, and I think it's going to be finally pushed for to be talked about. You can go, when you go to a committee, you can see the agenda, and it has been re-referred to committee, but here it is, to amend election requirements in the case of an unchanged rate of annual ad valorem property tax levied by public school district board of directors. Now, folks, basically they can raise taxes under certain conditions. They shouldn't have that option. They do not need to be raising taxes. There's no excuse for that. So this education committee, you can see the members of the committee. Chair is Jane English, and these are the other members. Contact them and tell them to vote this thing down. If they can vote it down, I believe it needs 5 votes to pass. Also demand they do a roll call, because in many cases, some of these bad bills they pass, especially of the Senate committee that has so few members, it needs 5 votes to pass. So if it only gets 4 and somebody does a roll call, it doesn't pass. And that actually leads to the other bill that I need to focus on, if I can find it. And that is, oh wait, that's the Arkansas Legislature. SB 212. This is to create the document validity division and declare an emergency. And this is by Kim Hammer. This is one of the old get rid of. This basically is the bill that makes it almost impossible to gather ballot initiative signatures. They're already having to have that. We have to state a legal statement regarding gathering signatures, and you're supposed to ask for ID. But now, on top of this, it's been referred to for state agencies and government affairs. And I believe that's it's scheduled on the 25th to be in state agencies and government affairs. Let me see if it's a special order of business. No, it may not, but where is it? There's a whole host of other bills. There's one regarding the FOIA. It's by Tucker, who's a Democrat, but oftentimes he is pro Freedom of Information Act. This bill is also a good bill regarding the Freedom of Information Act by Brian King. But let me see if I can find it. So it may not be on, just because it's on the agenda doesn't mean it's going to be debated, but it's scheduled for there. And that's a bill that really needs to be voted down. I think it was voted down in the first time it was in committee, but then the vote was expunged. So it's still there. Some other bad bills regarding ballot initiatives were passed and pushed through. We tried to stop them. I was there for that when it was in the Senate, but unfortunately those did pass. So that's the status of those pieces of legislation. I did want to play something that I saw. This has been played around a few times, and let me see if I can bring it up and if it will play properly. But this is by I'm already logged into Facebook. Well, now this says the video isn't available, but I can find it on Rumble here. It's about paper ballots. There's actually 2 videos. One is by Donald Trump regarding the paper ballots. Here we go. me play this here. It's the, and this is another Rumble video. This is by Question Everything. I'm going to go ahead and follow them just because they gave me this video.
One other thing, I just before we leave, I think you should do this. For my safety and security and for the good of our nation, you should do it anyway, regardless, even if it costs 10 times more, but it actually costs you just a tiny fraction. If you went to paper ballots and you're voting, and I would hope that every Republican would, so it costs exactly 8% of what the machines cost. These machines, they got something going. They get business. It's amazing. So paper ballots, and paper is very sophisticated today. It's called watermark. It's impossible to copy, impossible to cheat. It's actually hard to believe that a piece of paper is highly sophisticated, but it's watermark, and it's it's amazing actually when you see it. You can't cheat. But if you went to paper ballots and same day voting, and if you went to voter ID, and also one other thing, you want a proof of citizenship, those four things: proof of citizenship, voter ID, paper ballots, one-day voting. And if you went to 2-day voting or 3-day voting, but some of these states, you had 64 days. You know, California just finished up just a short while ago. They were voting a week and a half ago. They're trying to finish them up. And other states too, they were weeks after the election. I mean, if that were a close election, you'd have to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. You got finished fast, Brian. Thank you for your help. We did very well in Georgia. It was very nice. But some of these states, if you had a close election, you wouldn't know who won. And then, you know, once that happens, then you really never know who won. But you would save tens of millions of dollars, forgetting about right, wrong, and security, safety, our country, our Constitution, and all of this. Number one, you'd have a much safer election. Number two, everybody, you'd know the results of your election by 10 o'clock. Everybody, it's a beautiful system. It's boxes of 5,000, boom, boom. And you can go and examine each box. It's so simple and so good. I did ask Elon, because he knows more about computers than anybody I know. I said, what do you think of the voting system? He said, computers are not meant for voting. It's just not it's too many transactions taking place too quickly.
So, folks, there you go. There's Trump's statement regarding that. He wants paper ballots. Most people want paper ballots. The problem is our state legislature is trying to ban paper ballots. They try to sabotage any effort to push for them. Searcy County was successful in having paper ballots. They ended up, and so far they've processed paper. It's been a good job with them. Other places, of course, across the nation, and paper ballots have been done. This was the first brought up to me by Colonel Conrad Reynolds. He's been doing a great job in fighting for this. And he has an organization. He has Colonel of Truth. And then he has, of course, he's talked about this with Joe Rogan. And how bad these machines are. And here's one of Sarah Huckabee Sanders claiming that she's for paper ballots. I'll play this.
We're working on that. What do you think the people of Arkansas really want and what they're focused on? We're working on that. And President Trump is very quick to remind us on that every time I see him. What do you think the people of Arkansas really want and what they're focused on? We're working on that, and President Trump is very quick to remind us on that.
So, no, they're not working on that. They have sabotaged every effort to try to push for paper ballots in Searcy County. They've done audits of them, and they are trying to stop paper ballots from being put on in the state. There was an effort to do that. It was blocked by Attorney General Tim Griffin. Well, he ordered his office to block it from ever being put on the ballot. And then when there was an effort done by folks like myself on a county level, several counties gathered signatures to put it on the ballot. The county clerks decided to wait until the signatures were gathered to supposedly find something wrong with the title and have them thrown out. And now they are sabotaging the signature gathering process. And the whole purpose of that is to make it much more difficult, if not impossible, to have paper ballots in the state of Arkansas. Kim Hammer is leading that effort, and others are joining in. And also a guy who I need to mention who oftentimes does everything to harm conservative issues, Chris Caldwell. He is the cowardly little consultant who goes behind closed doors and makes backroom deals to make it as difficult for conservatives to do anything to be involved in the Republican Party. Speaking of which, there is a district meeting. It is March 15th. It is actually, there's two district meetings. The first district is meeting in Batesville. It's the Republican Party of Arkansas 1st District. And this was already put forth a few days ago. This came out. I don't know if it's on the Republican Party of Arkansas page, because that has a bad habit of not being updated. I'm going to go to their calendar and see if it is. If it is, I'll go ahead and show you. But usually they end up they are not very good about updating, so hence here I am. Okay, they do have it. They do have the district meetings, okay? On March 8th is the 3rd and 4th district meetings. The 3rd district meeting will be held in Berryville. There's the address for that. And then the Republican Party of Arkansas 4th district meeting will be held at Garrison Center in Henderson State University in Arkadelphia. Now, the fees usually vary depending on the district. It's $20 for the 4th. I don't know what it is for the 3rd. And then on March 15th, both the 1st and 2nd districts are required to meet. The 1st district will be at Batesville Community Center, 9 to 11. And then the 2nd district meeting will be March 15th at RPA headquarters. Now, one of the messages I got in the 2nd district is that they are claiming that they do not have room for guests. I don't know how that happens, since state meetings have been held at the Republican Party of Arkansas headquarters, and somehow guests were allowed to attend. And usually, even though when these meetings, when they claim they have no room for guests, it turns out there is room for guests. And that the reason is again, people like Chris Caldwell and some of the handlers within the Republican Party of Arkansas leadership just don't want participation from conservatives. That's more likely the scenario. They do everything in their power to make it more difficult for conservatives to be involved. As I've mentioned before, they tried to sabotage the Republican Party of Arkansas State Convention last summer by not allowing changes to be even presented. Then they moved the convention to Rogers to make it more difficult and more expensive for people to attend. They then, when that didn't work and we passed rule changes anyway, they had a executive committee meeting where they just nullified the state convention, even though they have no ability to. And so far, the RNC has yet to get involved and do what really needs to be done, which is a doge that needs to be done within the Republican Party of Arkansas. So all those things were done, and they're still hitting us up for money, even though they have thousands. Chris Caldwell set up a scam political action committee called Stronger Arkansas. It was supposed to fight in the pro-abortion amendment. It was supposed to be what they call a blocking campaign to stop the pro-abortion folks from gathering signatures. It raised almost as much money as the pro-abortion people, but instead of using the money to pay door-to-door folks or canvassers and to get them a network so we could be at places and be able to stop people from gathering signatures, or at least make an effort to do so, the money was siphoned to Axiom. You can look up Chris Caldwell on my Rumble page, some videos about the things he's done, why he needs to be banned from the Republican Party of Arkansas. He really needs to be fined and put in jail for some of the other things he's done. But that's the status of the Republican Party of Arkansas. Do go to these meetings. Do get involved. Yes, as I just mentioned, the RPA leadership hates conservatives. They don't want you involved. They want you out of committees. All they want is your money and some of your time. They want you to volunteer your money and time, and then they want you to just go home and not be involved. They just want to use people. But folks like myself and others, I'm chair of Pulaski County Republican Committee. Other people have stepped up, and they are, fighting not just the Democrats, but the Republican establishment and the globalist uniparty. But there's an overwhelming majority of us. If even 0.1% of the Trump supporters in Arkansas get involved in our committees, we can force real reform, and we can have a legislature that passes getting rid of the income tax instead of just nibbling at it, and protect things like FOIA and allow things like paper ballots, and get a sovereignty bill regarding guns. And we can pass self-deportation laws that should have been passed years ago. Again, we have a Republican supermajority, but they're still being controlled by the globalist organizations, the Arkansas Municipal League, the Chamber of Commerce, the Education Association, and some of these political consultant types like Chris Caldwell are still running the show. And like cowards, they never really debate anything they stand for. They just sabotage and break rules, like they did regarding things like closed primaries. And by the way, we do need to primary some Republicans like Kim Hammer, but it's highly unlikely it's going to get done if they have the primaries open. As a matter of fact, I mentioned the Baby Olivia Act. Let me look that up right quick, since I suddenly thought of that. Baby Olivia, Arkansas, because I remember this is a pro-life video that a good Republican, Mary Bentley, who wants to show in schools. So it's a way to a pro-life bill. It's HB 1180. And it passed out of the House with no problem. But now it's in Senate Education Committee. It should have been put in healthcare, I think. But it was voted down. And it was actually voted as do not pass, and 2 Republicans joined the effort in blocking it. Those 2 Republicans, one is Jane English, and the other one, it was Breonna Davis. And I know for a fact that both of these bills, both of those senators have blocked this bill. One, because Democrats crossed over in the Republican primary. I helped the guy that ran against Jane English years ago. And here, I'm trying to look for stories about this. This is by Camden News, but several stories have this. So Stephanie Flowers passed the notion of do not pass. But then there's another one that talks a little more in detail about this. Senator Breonna Davis, claiming she's pro-life, she has several concerns about the bill, including its scientific accuracy. So in other words, because it doesn't teach every aspect of birth, it's somehow not good enough for her. And this is just making of an excuse. It's called making the perfect the enemy of the good. And that's really what's going on. I was trying to look for something that had more. There was another story. I talked about this before. Maybe this one will have it. It talks a little more about what actually happened. Yeah, because it's not perfect, she wants it voted down. And Jane English votes it down because she's, again, these people are safe because they know that if they are primary, Democrats will help make sure that they stay in their Senate seats. And I know this for a fact because both of these senators that are blocking this bill had conservative primary opponents, and they won because the Democrat crossover vote. Jane English won her primary by 300 votes, and Breonna Davis wasn't that much more. They would have been, if we had close primaries during their primary races, we would have conservatives, and this bill would probably be headed to the governor's desk by now. So that's why you need to get involved in your county committee. And when they cheat you and find some cowardly way to deceive you, or they take your money and then make up some fake rule about what's it called? This was done at the Saline County Young Republicans. They made up a credential committee. They changed the rules for membership, which was an act of fraud. This was done by Rusty Jackson, who needs to go to jail for that, by the way. They will find ways to cheat you. I've been cheated. Of course, I took part in the state convention and helped to pass those rule changes. And so far, my voice has been silenced, and I've been cheated by the cowards in the RPA that don't want to accept the state convention changes. But I'm still in this because, this is the only way to, on a political level, to reform this state. Again, voting Libertarian, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't go anywhere. Most Libertarians don't really even bother to campaign. They probably could win some smaller seats if they would focus on them and not waste all their energy on, U.S. Congress and president. But it is what it is. And most other third parties about the same way. They just don't want to get organized and try to build their way up. So right now, the best way to reform things politically is through the Republican Party. Well, folks, that's about it. That's really what I wanted to give an update on. I have some other things I need to take care of. Follow me at Just the Right Angle. I thought I had this angled correctly. When you can get updates on what's going on, what it matters, and how you can get involved. If you know of any other important things that are going on, tax increase. I know there's a big fight up in Fort Smith regarding the Sustainable Development UN Agenda 2035 nonsense. Joe McCutcheon's fighting against that. I also know there is a fight against the windmills that they're trying to put in North Arkansas. There's still a fight against the crypto mining facilities. Lots of fights going on all over this state. In these counties, I don't know what the status of Jefferson County is. So I understand that they're still down in their budget because they're wasting money on so many stupid things. But you just, like I said, find a way to get involved and fight against the establishment. We've won in several victories. As I said before, the Uniparty didn't want to get rid of special elections, but we forced them to do so. We have a bill to find sanctuary cities that provide sanctuary for illegal aliens. Constitution carry, we pushed that. I know that Asa Hutchinson, his pals, didn't like that. Of course, on a federal level, we got Trump elected, but we've made a lot of reforms, but we have a long way to go. And remember, when the wicked rule, the people groan. I was in it with this verse. That's a Bible verse. It's one to think about. We have a chance to take away the power from the wicked. Other than that, y'all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the week.